Hello my friends and welcome back to the rabbit hole. In today's video, we are going to be talking about makeup brands that failed. Well, this certainly sounds like a controversial topic, doesn't it? But to be honest with you, this video requires a little bit of an explanation, so this is not going to be a drama type of video where I just kind of sit here and say, these brands failed and here's all of the reasons why. Instead, there's almost a little bit of a sadness in me making this video because I actually like all of these brands, even if not some of the people behind them. I do like and find, very redeeming qualities in every one of these brands, but I don't think that they are succeeding as well as they potentially could, or with some of them they are already defunct. So I think I really want this video to be a kind of a hybrid between makeup and psychology, so we can just kind of sit here and discuss what happened, what went wrong, or what could have gone better for these brands. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am going to be applying products from all of these brands because like I just said, I did like all of these brands at least at one point. We're not going to focus too much on what I'm putting on my face though, because all of these brands are at the very least hard to get at this point. But at least it's something for you to see. This is the look that I create throughout this video, so let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start off this video with the brand Z Palette, which was best known for their magnetic palette system. I feel like they were really popular, especially during the time of Makeup Geek single eyeshadows, and then they did something that made them fall from grace. Now, I do not own anything from Z Palette, but I'm going to be using this little Itsy palette that I have filled with actually Makeup Geek and other eyeshadows. I gotta say though, all things considered, Z Palette's system being gone isn't the worst thing because I kind of feel like some of these brands did it better. I'm going to be using this today. Can you guys tell what the inspiration for this was? It's a release by Viseart. You know it? Z Palette was such a good idea because what they did is they made a product that was meant to be used with whatever brands that you had. MAC had this system of you buy individual MAC shadows and you'd put them into the MAC palette system, but MAC's palette system was the reverse of normal. MAC had to be out here, not like the other girls, but most eyeshadows are in steel little pans and they're naturally magnetic. So if you put a magnet down, then you have the system. And that's all Z Palette was originally selling, was just this idea of, hey, you can take apart whatever palettes that you have, you can pop out your eyeshadows, put them into our magnetic palettes, and then you have a whole new range of creativity. You can use only the shades that you're interested in. Z Palette was so successful that I feel that for a while, if you had any old magnetic palette, it was a Z Palette. Oh, who made your Z Palette? Oh, Colored Rain. Kind of like how if you say, hey, do you have any Kleenex? Someone might say, yeah, here you go. And you're like, no, that's great value tissue. And in this time, there were also a lot of tutorials on YouTube about how to depot your palettes. So say you wanted to take apart your Urban Decay Naked palette, the only problem you would run into is that the pans were glued into the cardboard. So you'd need some kind of a heat source to loosen that glue. People used, hair straighteners, they used candles, they used ovens. And then Z Palette had this idea. Their idea was to sell their own heat source and call it the Z-Potter? Oh, I think it's the Z-Potter, yep. And this essentially hot plate that they were selling was, I believe, $85. So when they posted this to Instagram, as you might guess, there was a lot of initial feedback from people who followed Z Palette saying things like, you guys don't actually need to go out and buy this, you can just use your oven. And this is where the controversy happened. Z Palette had the choice. They could have ignored these comments. They could have just said something nice back, but instead, they kind of started getting very insulting. And the replies that they were leaving to people were things like, I'm going to paraphrase this, but like, good thing we don't need your money, you look like a cheap date, so something like that. Just like, there's definitely an implication that, oh, you guys are just too poor for our $85 device. And as you guys might imagine, people didn't take that too well. It rarely goes well for a brand to insult their customers. Z Palette had a lot of choices that they could make here, and it just seems like at every given opportunity they made the wrong choice. So, you know, step one, don't reply a nasty reply to your customers insinuating that they're poor. But you know, option two, if you ever do say something foolish in a moment of just not thinking about things, at least apologize as quickly as possible. They did not do this. Rather than apologize, Z Palette stood their ground and wrote one of those long Instagram notes about basically just saying that they were right and they were very proud of this creation of theirs, and everybody that was saying even anything against it was very, very wrong. And that response was exactly what was too much for most people. You know, people who bought from Z Palette, people who own Z Palette, decided to boycott the brand for the way they were treating their customers. And you know, this has happened many times before, and it will happen again. You know, the thing is, I do genuinely feel bad for Z Palette because, like, I feel like everybody can probably relate to what they were going through. You know, I'm sure that they created this device that they thought people were going to love, and I'm sure it would have sold, or probably did sell, to some amount of people. But the reality is, no matter what it is that you invent, no matter what it is that you do, no matter who it is that you are, there are always going to be some amount of people that just don't like it or just don't like you. But you know, the fact is, no matter what, you have to just ignore that. You have to just ignore people who don't like what it is that you're doing, what it is that you invented. You cannot attack, you shouldn't attack anybody. You shouldn't attack the haters. You should just always go forward with kindness, because nothing good comes out of the opposite of that. So I grew up in a family of entertainers. I think I haven't talked about this for a while, so some of you guys might not know this, but yeah, both of my parents were musicians when I was younger, and they used to have this saying, and I think it's such a helpful saying to anybody, whether you're an entertainer or not. And they used to say, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time. And my gosh, those are words to live by. That is so true. I honestly think that one of the saddest parts of this whole situation is that it seems that when Z Palette fell from grace, the entire world forgot about magnetic palettes. And you know, again, they're so great. They can help you decide if a color scheme is something that's for you, or maybe just help prevent you from repurchasing shadows that you already own again. But you know, I think that's probably an element of it too. I think that Z Palette maybe wasn't the most commercially friendly brand, so maybe that's a part of why they made one mistake and that was the end of them, whereas there's other brands that have made a lot of mistakes and are still kicking. Let's move on to talking about Flesh, which is totally the inspiration for today's video. I don't know if this is going to be my color still. I am getting so incredibly pale. You know, during this time, people keep saying things like, oh, you can go outside. You don't have to just be inside all the time. But there's a little bit of a problem with that. Some of us don't have yards, you know? I live in an apartment complex, and we tell you what, there are so many people on the levees right now. It's just like, I don't want to go outside. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about this brand, Flesh, which I don't feel that Flesh has failed, first of all. They did they're gone from Ulta, I should say. But they're going to continue to sell their products on the Flesh website. However, it kind of seems like Flesh started off with a certain privilege that some brands would do absolutely anything for. I mean, to start in Ulta is amazing. Most brands are trying to get into Ulta or Sephora. To move out of it, which probably is, hypothetically is, because maybe they weren't selling that well at Ulta. Yeah, it seems like not the best sign for the brand, and yet, you know, the thing about Flesh is I genuinely think they not only have good products, but I actually really like what they were trying to do. Let me go ahead and try to explain to you what I know about Flesh as a brand. So I believe they started in 2018, and the founder of Allure had this idea for a new beauty brand that was extremely inclusive. And that's why she named the brand Flesh, why she came out with, from day one, 40 shades of this foundation stick. And along with that, you know, it's not like it was just 40 shades that weren't well planned out, as we've seen happen with some brands. It was 40 really good shades, you know, everything clearly by undertone. It was a great first launch, but the thing is, there were some other aspects to the brand that probably weren't the best of ideas. One of them is I think that Flesh really went the route of controversy. In case you don't know the name of the foundation stick I was just using, yeah, its name is Thick Stick Firm Flesh Foundation. Maybe if you sing it, it makes it sound a little more Disney? And here's the deal with you know, getting people's attention via controversy. I think it works. And you know, I think it worked initially. There were a lot of people talking about, oh my gosh, can you believe the names of these products? And so what you could do from that point is springboard people into actually really high quality products. You can say, okay, now that we have your attention, look at our beautiful shade range. We put a ton of thought and effort into it. We are a highly inclusive brand. But I really feel that one of the biggest problems that Flesh made from the start is that they tried to highlight the fact that they were a part of Revlon, and yet Flesh's products were not cheap. Something that I've noticed in the beauty community is that we really tend to anchor to prices. So, you know, a drugstore foundation should be around $10, a high-end foundation should be $40. The reason actually that I really noticed this was when I started buying Korean skincare and I realized that they have a different mentality on sleeping mask sizes than we do in America. In America, a sleeping mask is the same size as your daytime moisturizer, but usually $10 to $20 more expensive. In Korea, they are significantly bigger, almost more than double the size, and often the same price exactly or even less. I think Flesh thought it was a good idea to attach Revlon to their image because, you know, Revlon has been around for so long, and yes, this all was made in the same lab as Revlon. And even in Flesh's original article, they said, you know, this is the same lab as Revlon, but different equipment because we wanted, but different ingredients because we wanted to use more prestige ingredients. And you feel that when you use Flesh's products. This does not feel like using Revlon products. It's kind of like the Kylie lab versus the ColourPop lab, same lab, but from using her eyeshadows, yeah, it actually is a different ingredients. Sorry, bad grammar, bad. But this idea has never worked for people. In fact, there's a lot of people who won't buy from Kylie because it's made in the same lab as ColourPop. There's, do you remember those NYX palettes that came out that were $30? I bought those and they were higher quality than NYX's other eyeshadows. Oh my gosh, they absolutely were. But there was such a tremendous backlash to NYX coming out with $30 eyeshadow palettes. There were so many people like, who do you think you are? You're a drugstore brand. You can't come out with $30 eyeshadow palettes. And I feel like what really cements my own theory, at least in my own head, is that when Flesh went 75% off on the Ulta website, these items sold out. I mean, they were gone. People raided the Flesh section. That sounds really strange. I've seen this happen before, and we're even going to talk about another brand that's still 75% off, but those products are not moving, whereas Flesh did sell. So I feel like it's possible for Flesh to kind of come back now that people have actually bought these products, but also they have to keep in mind that people bought these products for, you know, $4.50 for the foundation stick, which is probably the right price, at least close to the price, $18 for what looks like a sample size. This is exactly why I think Flesh didn't do well. You know, small products, too close to Revlon. You know, you had this chance with getting people's attention with the name of the brand, but I just don't feel like what followed was exciting enough for people. Like, oh, an expensive Revlon, no thanks. I feel like the fact that I'm still nervous in, what on earth month is it? Is it still May? In May of 2020, I am nervous about holding up this next product. I feel like that really says everything, even though on a technicality, the reason that this brand failed is no longer a part of the brand. That is right, we are talking about Kindness Vegan Beauty Discovery Vegan Beauty, I think. But formerly known as Kat Von D Cosmetics. So yeah, you all know why Kat Von D was canceled. I haven't held up this product in a hot minute, but I've been trying to finish it, as you can tell. I am certainly not going to rehash the situation with this brand. It's just, there's no reason to. But you all know it. Oh, you all know it. But what's very interesting about all this is, so obviously, Kat Von D originally was a very successful brand, and I think it's actually something I was thinking about the other day. I remember so vividly when sales did not happen on KVD products. It just did not happen. You had your 20% off at Sephora sale. That was the best you were going to do. You compare that to the fact that now her products are discounted to $5. But I do feel like we could really spend some time analyzing what on earth happened with this brand, and also why, for once, this was a successful boycott, or was it? Or was it a successful boycott? That fall from grace was like absolutely nothing I've ever seen before. It was just amazing. It was amazing. The brand just completely fell apart. And it took Kendo a really long time to do something, but it seems like they did, and it kind of felt like they did it in a day. After all that time, it seemed like they just one day were like, hey, please leave. Please leave. And like I said, with Kat being gone, that also means the boycott was successful. We were upset about this person. She is no longer attached to the brand in any way. She's not getting any kind of royalties or anything. She is gone. So now it should be great to support this brand, right? I've heard some really good arguments for not just why it's okay to support KVD Beauty now, but reasons why it might even be important, but put a pin in that statement. So, I made a video on this when it first happened, and something that I was happy about is actually, for as goofy as their new name is, I do think it's better to just change the name, or at least the meaning of the name, and not throw into landfills tons of products that are already made. I do think that that is more environmentally friendly. I also heard Manny MUA make a really good argument that, the brand wasn't just this one person. There were a bunch of people who were working there who were probably just normal people and absolutely vaccinate their children, who just kind of, had to be along for this ride just because the person that they worked for was a horrible person. And I think that's a really good argument too, because even in my life, I've certainly worked for people that I don't think were really good people. But, when you're just an average person and not wealthy enough to have options around to just be like, I'm going to be unemployed because I don't like this person. So if you could just cover my bills for a while, Mom. I didn't have that option. I had to work for people that were nasty. And the third argument is from Smoky Glow, who argued, we wanted this thing to be accomplished. We wanted Kat to be gone from this brand. We got that. She's completely gone, and potentially her argument is that it's a good idea to buy from this brand now to show not just Kendo, but any other brands who are watching that if you do what the people are requesting, then you will get customers back. However, the reality of this situation seems to be a lot more complicated, because even though I just told you all of that, even though I made a video on this, let's count together how many products I've purchased from KVD Beauty since this happened. We're done. Yeah, none, because I can't get past the name. I see KVD and I remember what it stood for, not just a couple of years. This is not a baby brand. This is a brand that's been around for a long time. And to separate out what those initials mean from what they meant for what the 2 years that all of this was going on, it's very, very hard. I am making this video on brands that failed, and I like, in some ways I want to just be including the old Kat Von D Beauty, but it's like I can't separate it. It's like Kat Von D Beauty is Kindness Vegan Beauty Discovery Beauty. How is it not, even though the problem is now gone? So I think that this is a central issue that I hope brands take note of going forward. even if you remove the problematic person, how do you actually come back? Is it even possible? The next brand is the Este Edit, which some of you probably don't even know ever existed. But here's the story on this one. I'm going to use this palette, which is actually incredible for highlighter. So how long ago was this? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. This was at the height of, I would say, the Kylie lipsticks. People were noticing that younger people were really getting into makeup and they were really spending a lot of money on it. And I think that Estee Lauder kind of started to worry, well, do we position our brand for only a certain age range? You know, are we doing a good job of appealing to this younger generation? And I feel like most of us know that the answer to that is not really, aside from maybe Double Wear. Most people see Estee Lauder as a mom or a grandma brand at this point. And it really is a shame, and I do wish that would change because I genuinely do think Estee Lauder has some very good products. But what they did is I guess their marketing team got together and thought, well, let's see, Kylie Jenner is having a lot of success. Why don't we go ahead and get another Jenner sister? And she can be the face of this new sub-brand that we will introduce. We'll name it Este Edit. It will be a part of Estee Lauder, and younger people will buy from that. Then they'll transition to Estee Lauder as they get older. It's brilliant. Except that it wasn't. And the reason it wasn't brilliant is because there's a specific reason, I think, that people liked Kylie Jenner, and I'm a little out of my element here, I admit this to you up front, but if I had to guess at why people liked Kylie, it's because she didn't quite look like the rest of the Kardashians. She did seem a little more relatable, at least when she was younger. So Estee Lauder's out here thinking, oh, it's just that we need another Jenner. They grabbed Kendall Jenner, who happens to be very naturally pretty. She is a runway model for huge luxury brands. They were like, okay, we got another Jenner sister. It's great. She's gonna be the face of this brand, but she's not at all relatable. I think it really feels like Estee Lauder pulled a fellow kids with Este Edit, and it's really a shame, and I'm really sad that this all happened because these products were actually incredible. This palette that I'm using, this is old, and it's still going really well. This came with eyeshadows that were just absolutely ahead of their time. They were so pigmented, they were so rich and intense and such good quality. It wasn't like using Estee Lauder eyeshadows. It really was, you know, more pigmented. It was what younger people would have liked, but the brand itself didn't appeal to younger people, so they didn't buy it. Last brand for today's video is Beauty by Popsugar. So I already put this on my lips because I didn't want to be talking while applying a lip gloss, but you know, I guess what I would say about this is it's a nice lip gloss. It's fine. And that's the problem to me with Beauty by Popsugar. So first off, this was a kind of newer brand that had the luck of coming to Ulta, or the privilege of coming to Ulta to start with. And, you know, there just wasn't a lot that really grabbed your attention about this brand. For me, first off, I was certainly sitting here going, what is Popsugar? Why am I supposed to know what this is? I mean, I know there's a subscription box, but is there more? That's all I know. And if that's true, and that's all that this brand is a subscription box gone brand, then that works against you even more that you priced your products so high, at least to me. And they did have a whole line of lipsticks and lip glosses, a couple of palettes that were a little strange in their appearance and certainly not what people say they like. People actually say they do not like this type of layout, but you know, all right, but give me some more information. You know, what is really setting these products apart so much that I'm gonna drop $26 on a lip gloss? And you know, I bought from every other brand in this video at full price. I did. But when it comes to Beauty by Popsugar, I never did that. I did buy their holographic lip glosses at 50% off during a 21 Days of Beauty sale, and I actually liked them. I thought those were excellent. But that's it. You know, I just never paid full price for this brand, and I never would. And I think what's really interesting about Beauty by Popsugar is that their products are now marked down to 75% off, and they are not selling out. And to me, that really has always been the central issue with this brand. You know, especially at full price, What sets you apart? What sets you apart even when your lip glosses are $4.50? Because Essence still has $3.99 lip glosses. Are those $2.99? My theory with what happened to Beauty by Popsugar is I think they thought that they had more of a following than they did. I think this has probably happened to influencer collabs as well, just, people that get a lot of positive feedback in one way or another and think that it applies to a wider audience than it actually does. To give you a real world example of this, have any of you guys ever worked as background in movies or film? I used to do this stuff all the time when I first moved to New Orleans. Oh my gosh, it is such a smart side gig for anybody who is in school, because what you do is you go to these film sites and you just kind of sit there for hours and hours and hours, and then maybe you film for 2 or 3 hours in total. If you bring your textbooks, you can just sit there and study for hours and get paid for it. Best job to do while you're a student. Oh my goodness. But there's always this group of background artists who think that they are undiscovered actors. And it's kind of tragic in a lot of ways because, it seems really clear to me that the film industry is all about who you know, not a level of talent necessarily. But yeah, these people, they'll sit there and they'll tell you about the one time that they had a line in a movie, and it just becomes ingrained into their identity, and they really think they are this very famous person. And you see them on the sets and you're just like, oh, it's you again, my famous friend. And I kind of feel that's what happened with Beauty by Popsugar. Yeah, the Popsugar boxes were all over YouTube. There's tons of unboxing videos of this box, but does that translate to a brand? Do you have enough of a following for releasing makeup items? I could be wrong. Popsugar could be something much bigger than I know. Let me know in the comments below. But I think the problem here is I don't know. I don't know what they are. So to me, that's why a brand, especially with these prices, just didn't really have any magic draw to it from the start. So that is all I have for today's video. Let me know your thoughts below. Have you tried any of these brands? Do you agree with why I think they didn't do better? Do you know of any other brands that you've watched fail and it's been kind of sad to watch? Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me today, and I will see you all next time.